Chronilogical V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Chronilogical V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Pro Physique Code, and we got to have a question of the day.
Do you have an idea? I'll throw one out there if you don't.
Let's go,
On the
Lexi. What's your
spot.
question of the day on the spot?
My question is, because it's very relevant, when you're listening to this, I'm curious what the weather is like where you're at, like in the world. Because for us Floridians, all three of us live in Florida, it is, well, when I woke up this morning, I looked at my phone and it said 36 degrees. And that is like, honestly, that is, I know that's a record for Florida at this time of year, but crazy.
It was 31 for me, and it said felt like 20 outside.
Yes, it was windy. So I know, yeah, the wind chill, sheesh. And I know we're going to have some people that are probably laughing at us, that are used to like single digit numbers. But you also have to consider when you live in Florida and you're used to like 80 degrees every day, and then all of a sudden it's in the 30s. It's a bit of a heavy hitter right there.
I will also say this too, because a lot of people say it's you get used to the weather down here, but my dad travels back and forth between Georgia and Florida, and it's like 30 or 29 degrees down there. Then he gets to Florida and feels this. He's like, it's way colder down here. And it has to do with the humidity being so high down here. That bite, the cold down here is not like it is other places.
No, when we were in Vegas,
level of cold.
when we were in Vegas, Lexi, it was like 40 degrees one day. And I just remember being outside and being like, it's not hard to be outside. 40 degrees in Florida hurts your skin.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I will always remember when I first moved here. I had two roommates in my college dorm, and one was local to Florida, and she always told me, she's like, oh, your first winter in Florida, she's like, the cold is different here, Lexi. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But it's so true, and I know it has to do with that humidity for sure.
It's rough. There's not that many days of it, but when it is, it hits. And it's kind of a nice change. Like I like the fact I had to preheat my car this morning and go out, and I was like had to run inside to the gym before I was freeze my ass. Like it's actually kind of a nice change.
It is. It kind of is. As long as it's sunny, I think I can definitely take if it's cold out. If it's sunny, that's fine. But if it's cold and then also like gloomy, that's kind of when it starts to just not be so fun.
I mean,
Well,
it's
and
beautiful
also
outside
we
today.
get the added benefit of like up north when it hits 30, it stays there. We're going to be 80 in 2 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how people get the flu.
Everyone's going to be wearing their Uggs to the gym and their,
Yeah.
That's funny you mentioned that.
It's 80 degrees this weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy. It's funny you mentioned Uggs, Paul, because that is one thing I kind of miss, when I was growing up in St. Louis. Like I had so many pairs of Ugg boots. I feel like I would ask for a pair every Christmas. They used to be my favorite. Now I don't have any. I mean, I left them all back home, so kind of sad.
Miss High Society Lexi in her Ugg boots.
Those used to
The
be
amount of times I've been somewhere cold and bought like a nice jacket and been like, wow, I love this jacket, and put it in my closet, and like a year later, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a jacket. Like you just don't, your life is just different when it's not cold.
I got this at the Arnold with you, Paul, 2 years ago.
Because it was so cold.
It is the second time I have worn it.
Yeah. Same.
The first time since then.
Yeah, I don't own a winter coat. I don't. Every year when I go back home to St. Louis, I always just like borrow my stepmom's because she has many, and like I refuse to buy a winter coat because I'm gonna never wear it,
So we'll have to check the weather for next weekend for the Ben Weeder, but I imagine it's going to be a little chilly up there.
I can check it right now, Paul. It's going to be, I know it's cold freezing up there right now.
Yeah, but it won't be next week. It'll be back to normal. It's still only November. Yeah,
it's like next Thursday when we get there, it'll be like 43 and 50 for us, the high. So
that's
chilly,
chilly,
but not like it is there
and
right now.
So for those of you that have been waiting for this announcement, prophysique.com events, Command the Stage tickets are available.
Yeah.
March 21st. weekend.
Oh, okay. I did not. Oh, well, now I need to run and tell some of my clients.
Well, you've got a little time. This isn't coming out until next Monday, so you got a little time.
Okay, good. Because I have like off the top of my
Yeah.
head, there's like six of them that are like, let me know as
Yeah,
soon as the tickets come out.
yeah,
I
and
feel
we
like
are capping it this year again. So, um, but yeah, very excited.
this one always, the tickets always sell out really quickly for this one. The one in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, I feel like these tickets go quickly. And yeah, I think we do like to cap it because it's nice to have a little bit more of an intimate setting. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we had so much fun at the San Diego one. It just reminded me like, okay, let's get this thing going. So it's we're doing it again at the Glute Lab. Brett's going to be a part of it. Um, it'll just be a great way to kick off the beginning of the competition year. Lots of stuff going on. So we're going to talk today about, we had a viewer ask a question about just how you get a pro card. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But for our viewers that are familiar with that process, we'll also dig a little bit deeper. Let's talk about some strategies around getting competitors through different phases of competition level. Um, and then also, there's been some huge announcements because for a long time it was rumored that Fit Model was not going to have a pro show until the Pittsburgh Pro. That's been thrown out the water. Now there are Olympia qualifiers starting in February, March, April, and May, to include the Japan Pro is the first one in February, but then Wasatch, which was one of the first big shows to have a Fit Model show last year, Girl Power here in Orlando, Pittsburgh and New York Pro both announced they're having it. And I'm probably missing some. Those are just what I'm seeing on my radar.
Yeah, I feel like we're seeing a lot of the shows that typically happen in like the beginning of the season, like those spring shows are starting to announce and kind of build hype over we're gonna have the Fit Model Pro show, or we're gonna have Fit Model Pros at our shows. So I feel like we're gonna see a lot more announcements, especially because I feel like usually, I mean, at least from what I remember, I feel like it's right around Christmas when you kind of see the full like NPC calendar come out for the following year. But I feel like we're seeing a lot of those earlier in the season shows starting to like build hype over having Fit Model.
My guess is all the main big shows are going to have it. And then a lot of the shows that cater more towards the female shows, say something like Girl Power, things like that, they're obviously going to have them. So I think, those are going to be kind of the main ones that end up having it. And I should know this answer, but forgive me for not, because there's always rules changing. With Fit Model, it's one win required
Yeah.
for Olympic qualification, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there's not
Because
as many
there
shows.
there will be far fewer shows. I think I estimated there'll be maybe 10 or 12 Fit Model girls because the difference with Fit Model, I think these girls are going to run the gamut.
Yeah.
They're not going to do a show and shut it down because you don't have to be so depleted and run down. They're going to try to like get feedback from each judge. I mean, as a
I
coach, that's
would.
my strategy. When I was having top call outs at the Olympia, it was we need to get in front of Sandy, we need to get in front of Tyler, we
Mhm.
need to get in front of Bill, we need to get in front of Mo, we need to get in front of all those Olympia judges and get their feedback. So we're bringing that look. And I think with Fit Model, I've already seen it. I've seen there's girls that I saw in May that are still competing in Fit Model.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, the girls that turned pro in Fit Model in the summer or earlier, I think there's going to be a lot of those girls that like they've had a lot of time now to just kind of sit, grow,
Mhm.
improve, refresh, their mind, their body, kind of, out of prep. And so I think they're gonna right off the get-go come out and probably try to do a lot of shows early in the year as well. And I mean, honestly, there's that level of excitement too towards like if you're a Fit Model Pro, you're making history. It'd be kind of cool to be, one of the first pros at some of those first pro Fit Model shows and, to secure a win. So I feel like some people probably have that, in the back of their mind as well.
I'll be really interested to see how the first few shows go on if they reward kind of the new girls that turn pro or if they reward a lot of the current pros that are transitioning to Fit Model. That's going to really interest me
I'll
because
be
the looks are
honest,
going to be quite different.
I've been posing with a lot of my pros that are interested. It's going to be hard to go down for some of these girls that have been spending years building muscle. Um, yeah, I don't think they're going to reward pros right off the bat unless they seriously downsize.
Be
Um,
interesting to see.
Yeah.
yeah.
I can absolutely see a perspective on that. It's just as you know, like the judging's kind of been all over the board on what they've been rewarding for Fit Model throughout the shows. It varies between show to show and judge to judge, right? And I mean, like a couple of my girls that have won multiple overalls this year, they got feedback to be a little bit tighter, and then they get to the next show and they're a little bit tighter, and they're like, well, you need to fill up a little bit more. And they said, well, Tyler said to be a little bit tighter. It's like, oh, well, then just stay how you are. And so it's things are kind of all over the map with it. So I think once we start to get that standard with some pro wins, it'll really help solidify what the
Mhm.
standard is.
Oh, I 100% agree. I even think it's gonna, I mean, I really think that the addition of the pro fit model shows next year is really gonna set fit model at the amateur level, like
Yeah.
way above bikini. Like we're already seeing at some shows this year where not all, but some shows there's more almost more fit model than there are bikini. But I feel like next year we're really gonna see that difference just because, not for nothing. Some girls they get into competing because they want to look like Lauralee or they want to look like one of those top level pros. And it's like this year we don't really have that with fit model. You don't really have that like one person that like a Lauralee, a fit model yet. So I feel like when we do get that, that's going to attract just more newer competitors that want to kind of try out fit model too.
Yeah, and look, I understand a lot of girls that do this division initially, they get a little bit frustrated because what's rewarded is it just varies so much from show to show and kind of what the reward is. But I think with FitMod more than anything else, it's everything, right? It's the look, it's the hair, it's the makeup, it's the eye contact on stage, it's the facial movements, it's how they flow, it's all of that stuff matters. All of that stuff matters. And not being overly conditioned, but being the right amount of condition, having muscle, but not having too much muscle, right? And trying to find a combination of all of that is going to be different from show to show.
Yeah, and I think also with it being the first year that it's being, that it's a thing, I think you just as a competitor, you have to also kind of just know going into it that there is going to be a little bit more of that with the first year. Everybody, even the judges are still probably kind of figuring it out and figuring out
Mhm.
what they exactly like, right? And you just kind of you have to know that anytime you're going into a division that's brand new.
Yeah, what's your
I
opinion on
mean,
that, Paul? I mean, you've turned a bunch of girls pro and fit model this year. What's your opinion on that?
they literally have told me after the show, we're still learning from show to show
Yeah.
because Brooklyn started the year off with 3 overall wins, and she was top six or top. She was between second and sixth at all her national shows, um, and like the difference in the look from show to show that we would bring was quite different, and it was just it was kind of who was in the lineups. The one show that stood out in the weird way to me was USA's. Like it felt like, okay, they were rewarding girls that have a little bit of muscle but aren't as lean. And then at USA's, they went, nope, it's all the girls that are really model-esque looking, tall and linear, not a lot of muscle. Um, and so it was like, okay, now what are we doing? And then it went back the other direction. So it's going to be like the early days of bikini where you're just going to see a difference of conditioning and muscularity from show to show because I think what they're
Yeah.
going to do is they're going to target certain competitors that they think are the best for the division, and how they look is how they're going to judge everyone else. Especially early on. So yeah, that's why the first couple shows are going to be so interesting. I had the first pro in the United States this year, Daniela, in May.
Mhm. That's right.
So she actually was like, "What's now, coach?" After the show, that was her. We did a show the weekend before. Then she turned pro, and she's like, "Now what?" And I was like, "Sorry, you're done." She was not ready to be done. She started prep already, so we're gonna probably be at like the Wasatch and stuff. She looks incredible. She's probably starting prep 10 to 12 pounds leaner than we started our last prep. I think she's going to be one of those girls because like she doesn't get that hard look in her
Yeah.
lower body, but her structure is insane and she's been growing for a year. So like
Yeah.
as a and like, as a natural athlete, I can't grow her out of the sport, right? If
Yeah.
she was doing stuff, yeah, she could have put on too much muscle. She looks incredible. I'll be really curious to see how she looks. Brooklyn, who is battle tested. Like the nice thing about someone like her is like we did 7, 8 fit model shows this year. So she really I thought
Mhm.
she was going to be done after she turned pro and she's like, "No, I want to do the first pro show." So
Yeah.
she really
I
wants
saw
to
that.
do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're doing Japan or if we're going to wait until Wasatch because it's like a month later. They announced no, it's April, so 2 months later. The Japan pro is very enticing, and then my girl Myra that turned pro from the Philippines, she wants to do Japan. Um, I haven't talked to Swan, Stephanie's girl. And then I think your girl's going to get her pro card at Ben Weider, buddy. So she's one to watch too. Um, yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And Nadia wants to do Japan, and she lives in San Diego, so it's an easy flight for her. So,
Hmm.
um, I just think it's exciting time for women in the sport. And like you said, Lexi, I think next year, if you go back to 2000, I think it was 11, the first year they had bikini on the national level where they were giving out pro cards, 2011 or 2012, there was like 60 bikini and 250 figure. Within a couple years, that was flipped. 250 bikini, 90 figure, right?
Yeah.
I I don't know if it's going to be that drastic with bikini, but like a lot of the girls are telling me now like they don't want to do pro bikini because they look like wellness.
Yeah.
The glutes are so big, the legs are so big. And what's funny is when you see them in person, they don't look like that, but they are incredibly muscular, these little tiny women.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think one of the hard things for a lot of competitors are, especially the girls that have that are kind of transitioning from bikini to that, is not being able to chase that level of conditioning they've always wanted, right? And I think that's the hardest thing for them is to mentally wrap their head around it, that it's a different look, right? It's a different look. And I think for some girls, it's, a few girls I've had that tried to fit model and they want to switch back is, they're like, well, you need to downsize your legs a little bit more. And they're like, I work my ass off to put on this muscle. Like, I don't want to downsize that. And I can understand that,
Mhm.
right? But then, what's they're going to be for bikini on the other side is a lot of people I think are in an in between spot, to where they want to be conditioned, but they also want muscle, but they also want to place well. And then it's kind of a tricky balance for a lot of people right now. But that's with the introduction of any division.
Well, I think about Janet Leug, and when I spoke to her about the year she won the Olympia, and I said, "What'd you do differently this year?" She said she used to just
She
train
trained year
hard for
round.
prep.
Yep, she
And
trained year
so she
round.
actually said, "Oh, I'm going to train all year." So that tells you how like gifted she is, with muscle. And she obviously has like crazy muscle insertions and shape and all that and beauty. Um, but I think some of these girls that are in fit model, they're going to have to stop lifting for a while.
Yep.
They're going to, the
Yeah.
girls that are, like if you think about girls that put on muscle very easily, like Lana, I've already had talks with Lana. If she wants to transition to fit model, she's going to have to stop working out.
I mean, I've heard some girls that have already done that, like pros that pro bikini, ladies this year that have decided they want to do fit model, and they've talked about like very openly about how they've pretty much just stopped training, or maybe they're just doing like Pilates now. And it's interesting
Yeah.
because like I oftentimes think about that, and I'm like, I guess it depends on the competitor, right? Like some people generally, I mean, I think a lot of athletes, they compete because they love going to the gym and pushing themselves hard, right? Like I know that's something that I love to do. And so, I mean, if I ever got to that point where I was told, hey, you need to downsize, like in my opinion, personally, and this isn't the decision I feel like everybody would make, but I'd probably at that point just decide, you know what? I want to train the way I want to train. I'm not going to stop training to just fit a division. So it'll be interesting to see, what decisions some people make with that.
I think it kind of falls into two camps. To me personally, you kind of have girls that fall into two camps. Girls that have really good muscle insertions in their delts and put on size easily in their shoulders, and you have girls that don't have the best muscle insertions and struggle to put size in their upper body. And I think for fit model, that's going to be a big determining factor in that. The girls that easily put on size in their body, they're going to have to stop training upper body, for a lot of them, or their shoulder caps are just going to continue to outgrow and outsize that. But a lot of the bikini girls that struggle to put on that upper body size, I think could kind of flow a little bit more naturally into fit model with it because they want glutes, they want legs, they want all that stuff, right? They want muscle. They just don't want the conditioning level in there. And I think the girls that have more muscle in their upper bodies, especially that have like those really short muscle insertions in their delts, um, it's tough for them, right, to get that level of leanness they need to get in the lower body to where that slight glute ham is there and not get completely striated in their shoulders is tough. It's tough. So pulling back on that upper body training is going to be important for a lot of them, and it's gonna for a lot of girls it's gonna be a struggle to get them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of bodybuilding and the fact that they added this division. I mean, I think it's an entry level division for real now, whereas it was getting
Hmm.
away from that. There was no more
Yep.
entry level bikini. So I've had a lot of talks this year with girls that are like, "I'm bikini, I'm bikini." They go do a show and they're like, "Oh, coach, I really want to win an overall and get a pro card." I go, "Well, you would do that very quickly in fit model."
Yeah.
Or
No,
or
and
we
I
need to
mean,
talk about taking a year off and potentially being on some PEDs to grow into bikini. So
yeah.
these are the conversations that you have now, and um, yeah. So I'm really, I love the data. I'll be
Yeah.
curious what's going to happen at nationals this year because these national shows have been small, dude, small.
Yeah.
So nationals is usually the biggest.
Hmm. Yeah, which kind of segues us into our topic of
Exactly.
stuff. I'll give a shout out to her name's Vanessa. She DM'd me on Instagram and asked if we could talk explicitly about just kind of like how to turn pro. And I think we've done an episode on this before, but it's been a while. And, it's honestly, I think it's a good refresher too, because there are sometimes some changes like year to year. Like, for example, we have Ben Weeder and we have the Pittsburgh Pro Natural Qualifier. And with Ben Weeder, it used to be very different, like how you would have to qualify, where like is now you have to do a natural NPC show to qualify. So sometimes there's little nuances like that that are changing year to year. So I think this is probably just a good topic to touch on. I mean, I know when I first got into this sport, I had no idea how you turn pro. So, and I feel like there's a lot of people in that same boat. Yeah.
Well, not only are we going to talk about the shows, and we're going to stick to the United States. If you're interested in turning pro outside of the United States, it's a pretty easy formula. You got to go to the NPC Worldwide website. Any show that has a pro show has a pro qualifier for winning the overall. Now, you do have to qualify for those now. You have to do a regional show before, but look that up. That I don't want to get into that because we're talking about maybe 50 more shows than we're going to cover here. We're going to talk about the actual national shows. Some shows they're referred to as national shows. They are not. The Ben Weeder is not a national show. Um, Junior USA's, Junior Nationals, USA's, those are the national shows. But there are other ways to get pro cards, like last weekend, the Caribbean Grand Prix, which is technically an international show. But if you live in Florida, it's an hour flight. And that show was an incredibly small show this year. But I'm going to talk about the numbers that I've seen this year in bikini. And I haven't done the fit model data yet. Um, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's I did it
And
at the Amateur Olympia, and the numbers were a lot closer to bikini than you'd expect this early on. So the number of competitors has dropped. They have not adjusted the pro cards as of yet. So
and
I mean, you guys would agree it's the easiest it's ever been to get a pro card.
it
Yeah.
is, especially if you start talking about masters divisions, right? And that we could really get in the weeds about this turning pro because you talk about masters divisions and what you need to qualify for a masters division is different from open, which is different from fit model. There are so many different kind of variables that play into this that it can get it. I'm trying to record a video for a client the other day, just off the top of my head, being like, here's your options and your roads to go pro. And she's 37, so she's a master. She could be a master's competitor, and she's also fit model. And so I was trying to go over it, and I was like, I need to stop here because this sounds like a jumbled mess of what I'm trying to go over because there's so many different routes with it. So
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, there absolutely are. But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you, Paul. I think, and I don't want to sit here and say it's easy to turn pro, but is it
No,
easier to turn pro now than it was years ago? Absolutely. I mean, I remember this was really before I was like in the thick of the sport. But I remember like watching from afar, like national shows 6, 7 years ago, where it was like, 30 plus girls in a class, and it was like people would celebrate when like, oh my gosh, first call outs, right? Whereas now, I mean, I hate to say this, I've seen some girls that are like, I got first call outs, and I'm like, well, there was literally only one call out.
There was
So
only one.
right, which like, but there used to be a time when like getting first call outs at a national level show, oh my gosh, that was like such an honor, right? Whereas now it's like most of these national level shows, there is only one first call out. There's not
Yeah.
enough people in each class to do multiple call outs. So and I think part of it too is we've talked about this before. I think part of it is, a little bit of it has to do probably with just the economy and, finances. There's a lot of people that I know, are struggling. So I feel like that sometimes limits people from going to these national shows because, not that we will go into depth on this in this episode, but like national shows are a lot more expensive than your local regional show.
they've actually gone up. I had a
I
girl
know.
just tell me the other day, Masters USA's is $400 a class.
$400 a class. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've got the entry fee is always a lot more expensive. And most people with national shows have to travel. I mean, unless you have the leisure of having one of them in your backyard, but that's pretty rare. So, they're more expensive. So I do feel like economically that has also played a factor in some of the
Yeah.
numbers too. But
I'm sure if you ever track competitor numbers, it follows the economy very closely because
Of course it does.
when the sport was at its biggest was right after COVID when everyone was doing bodybuilding. I remember those shows were getting massive, and there's been a steep decline since then. You know, and also the early years when I was early into coaching, 2014, 2015, 2016, the shows were, I mean, there was some national shows where it was like a joke. There were like 50 girls in a class in bikini, 50. And you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, how do you, that's bigger than some national shows have been this year. The Amateur Olympia was down to like 60 girls this year.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think another part of it too is, look, everything has a price to it, right? And we charge for our coaching services, of course we do. But a lot of these coaching services, what they require people to pay is wild to me. Absolutely wild. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can people afford $600 a month for
They're, I mean,
coaching and then
they're
travel
basically
and
leveraging the
shows?
future. They're taking out
It's
loans. They're doing
yeah,
these like buy now, pay later options for coaching.
because they think
So
that's
yeah,
what's
they're,
required for
yeah.
it.
that
And
yeah. And I think I've also heard some people that have told me that what they've been told too is like these coaches that charge that amount will sometimes say, well, I can turn you pro quicker than somebody who, it charges less. And in hindsight, that'll save you money. I don't know. But yeah, it always baffles me too, hearing some of these prices because I mean, you're paying for the coaching, and then a lot of these people are also paying for their PEDs, all these crazy supplements that their coaches are requiring them to be on top of all of that. And it's like, at the end of the day, for some people, that's like,
it's $1,000 a month.
that's like, yeah, rent or, well, I don't know where you can find rent that cheap nowadays, but like that, like it's kind of comparable to that. It baffles me how many people though do fall down that rabbit hole.
Well,
Yep.
let's stay on topic and let's get into how do you turn pro?
Yes. Well,
Um,
I think first off, before we go into the shows too, something that I want to just preface, and we could probably do a whole episode on this, but I don't know about you guys, but I always tell my girls, I always say, you need to act like a pro before becoming a pro if that's your goal, right? Because I feel like there are so many people out there. I feel like honestly, every competitor, most of the time, their goal is like, I want to be a pro. But I feel like there's a big disconnect between that and people that actually act like a pro and do what is needed to become a pro before becoming a pro, right?
Yep.
So I think that, like, again, that could be a whole other episode, but I wholeheartedly believe if you want to be a pro, like, start acting like a pro well before you become a pro.
Completely agree.
well, and I want to preface this by saying this. The pro card has a lot less value than it used to have. Getting a pro card, and this isn't to devalue what you guys are chasing, but getting a pro card when Evan and I first started watching bodybuilding, they give out one pro card a year. It
Yep.
was the overall at nationals. And that was back like when Jay Cutler was, that's how he
Mhm.
got his pro card. And the three guys he beat in his class also became Mr. Olympia contenders in the future. Like it was incredibly cutthroat. As the sport has grown and evolved, now they're giving out more pro cards. That doesn't mean it's not valuable, but don't make your whole journey about getting a pro card because I promise you, you're going to hold up that pro card. And if that was your goal, you will be forgotten about in months because
Yep.
the next weekend there's going to be more pro card winners and more pro card winners. So it's about if for those of you out there that want to make a career out of this and think the pro card gets you nothing. It does not give you anything. I can show you 1,000 people that are like, oh, I'm an IFBB pro and I'm a coach. No one cares. If you want to build a business and a brand off of your competitiveness, document it for your own journey. And if you get a pro card, great, that's a part of the process. But for those that are trying to get into the sport to build a business and build a brand, document the journey. Don't just chase the pro card and think, oh, I've got my pro card. Now people are going to come to me. They don't care.
Oh,
The
yeah.
busiest coaches don't even have pro cards. The
Nope.
best coaches aren't even competing as competitors usually because we're so freaking busy coaching. Um, yeah. So just
Yeah,
wanted to put that caveat out there.
for sure. Should
So
we?
All
let's
right. So
go chronologically,
Okay, perfect.
United
and we're
States
we're
wise.
just going to touch on the shows alone, not how to qualify for the shows, who qualifies, or anything
Yeah, I
like
mean,
that, right?
basically
Because
at this
that's a whole
point, the
nother.
qualification has been changed to where all of these shows require you be top two in an open class, which if you can't do that, do not go to a national stage.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, yeah, if you can't qualify top two in your open class at a regional show, probably you shouldn't be going to nationals anyways. And, on the flip side too, we've talked about this before, just because you're qualified for nationals does not mean you need to go to a national show either. Because not
Yeah.
all shows are created equal, right? Some shows you're gonna go into it and I mean, heck, there may only be 3 girls in your class and you get that top two spot doesn't always mean you should go to nationals. And I think a good coach will be honest with you too of if you are ready to go to nationals or not.
Yeah, and I think another thing to touch on real quickly, because we can touch on a million things with this, right? Is what's your point of going to a national show? It's because you want to experience it, or do you want a shot to win a pro card? You want a shot to win a pro card, you need to be winning your class almost every single time without a shadow of a doubt. Maybe not overalls constantly, but you should be winning your class almost all the time if you want a really good shot at winning a pro card. But I do
Yep.
think there's value for a lot of people to go and experience a national show, right? Because it is very different than a regional show is. So
Absolutely.
let's run
Um,
the schedule here.
so the first one is the Arnold, which is this year, I think March 7th. It's pretty early in the year, typically end of February, beginning of March. Columbus, Ohio. This used to be an international powerhouse show. Powerhouse. Um, the Arnold used to get upwards of, so I'm gonna blow your guys' mind. The amateur Arnold in 2020, which is pre-COVID. Remember, it shut down right after this. In fact, that was the show where they said no expo, but they said let the competitors come.
Mhm.
183 in bikini that year. Now they
Wow.
give out 3 pro cards at this show, top 3 in the overall. Did they pull it back to top 2 now?
Yes,
I think
they did.
is it top two now?
It's
I
top
believe
2
so.
now.
You're right.
Yeah,
It is top two.
it was top 2 this year, but I think if the numbers warrant it, they'll do top 3. But
Amateur Olympia is top three, you're right, but Arnold
yeah.
was top two.
So there's 2 pro cards for bikini, for fit model, for men's physique, classic physique, all that stuff. So the Arnold is an interesting show because so like I said, 183 in 2020. This last year, 25.
Wow. And I think part of the Arnold always being so small too is I mean, one doesn't give out as many pro cards, but also it is kind of a weird time of year. Usually it's going to require most competitors are going to have to be in prep throughout the holidays if they compete at the Arnold. Not all of them, but I feel like that's also a little bit of a deterrent.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're probably going to mention this, Paul. It's hard when if you have an athlete that goes to the Arnold and they miss their pro card and they want to continue to run that national circuit. Well, the hard thing is it's like there's usually not another national show for another like 6+ weeks. And some athletes are fine with that. But I do think it takes a special athlete to be able to hold it together within that time. Yeah. So I think that's another kind of tricky situation with that show.
And it's also one that you pretty much have to qualify the year before that, right? So you have to
Yeah.
already have a
There are
qualification the year
some
before.
there is a show in January at the Fit Expo where you can do that. There's a show in Vegas in February that you can do that. So I've had these girls do the run-ups. Even last year I had a bunch of girls do the Holiday Classic in December as
Mhm.
their qualifier. But yeah, you're basically starting prep right now. Like I have a girl that wants to do the Arnold, wants to win the fit model overall. We're basically, I mean, you're gonna laugh, but we're like 18 weeks out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the thing
Um,
too, like if you took a full year as an off season to grow, right, and took a year off, then the Arnold's not an option for you to do for most people.
no. Well, and so the reason that 183 is significant in 2020 is because it used to be a show where international competitors came to turn pro because they had no shows.
Hmm.
The Arnold and the Amateur used to be packed with international competitors. Now there are so many shows in Europe, Spain, even Eastern Europe, like Denmark had one the other day, Philippines, Singapore, Japan. There's pro cards all over.
Yeah,
You don't need to come to the United States anymore. So that Arnold Amateur show just basically, you know,
shriveled up.
disappeared. It is now a below average regional show.
I have some international clients who were looking at shows for next year, and I pulled up the international schedule and was floored with
You
how
can't
many
even,
international
I
shows
listen,
there are. It's
whenever I have
so
a
many.
girl, I say, you tell me, I can't even keep
Yep.
up with it.
I've started. I'm like, you tell me what fits your schedule. Here's the link. Tell me what you can travel to, what fits your
Yeah.
schedule. We'll go from there. So many shows.
Yeah. So that kicks off the year, but like you said, Lexi, I think it's 9 weeks before Junior USA's most years,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a long time.
it is. And I mean, gosh, it's hard to keep maybe not for fit model, but bikini. I mean, it's really hard to keep that physique looking really good and just full and like that pop to the muscle like for that long, right? You get somebody stage lean for the Arnold, and then to keep them looking like their best all the way until you have junior USA's and then maybe junior nationals. Like that can be really hard. A lot of people, I feel like by that point could potentially lose their pop.
I mean, if you have an 18 week per going into that, you're at prep 27 weeks before you get to the next option in the show. 27
Yeah.
weeks already. And you keep pushing it back, then you're at 32 weeks.
Well,
Right? Then
so
you're over half a year in prep already.
but funny story, this year, Brooklyn did bikini at the Arnold, came out of that, and they said more muscle and leaner. And she's like, "Ugh, should I try fit model?" So we reversed and did the first ever fit model show in Utah where she won the overall. So like, yeah, that was for her the journey that ended her bikini career was that Arnold. And I think just genetically, she doesn't have the glute pop in her front pose with the standard bikini front pose. We were never going to have that. She was always top 5 and top 8 at nationals, but if you don't have that kind of like structure for the front pose, it's 50%. It's always going to be hard to overcome that. So when
Yep.
they introduced that stallion pose, that was her meal ticket. She nails that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would not put a competitor in the Arnold unless I'm confident they can turn pro. Like
Yeah.
this year, I had 2 girls, both got second in their class, which means you're right there. Um, you're fighting for it. And then the year before, Sam got her pro card, and Kaylia was the other person in the overall that didn't get a pro card. So like, you want to go there knowing that you're going to be on, um, you know, because that's it. So then
And
Junior USA's, for those that don't know, Charleston, South Carolina in May. Wonderful venue, wonderful location. But again, it's another show that I don't understand where the numbers have gone if it just represents the sport as a whole. But they give out 4 pro cards and then 8 classes. So you have to win your class and then go to the overall and get top 4 in the overall.
and
Yeah,
again, it's tough to get to.
yeah,
It's
I was
tough to
gonna
get to.
say, Charleston is not the easiest to get to. But I don't know. My assumption has always just been, at least from what I've heard from other competitors, is it's just it that with out of all the other national
Mhm.
shows that happen kind of shortly after that, I mean, the chances of getting your pro card percentage wise are, or at least the number of pro cards they give out is a lot less. Especially when you have, a couple more national shows not too far after that that give out a lot more. So that's always been kind of my assumption as to why the numbers are lower at that show. But yeah, again, I mean, to your point, Evan, it could have to do too with the fact that it's not near, I don't think, like a major airport. So that can make it
Nope.
tougher.
There are some of the other next shows we'll talk about. They're tough to get to.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that I like about that show is I drive up and it's a
Yeah.
6, 7 hour drive, but that for me is like a very reasonable time. And I love Charleston. Like it's
It's
just a
great, beautiful
great,
city.
great city. It's a nice
Mhm.
drive. But let's talk about the numbers for this show. 2020. Again, for a lot of shows, that was a big year. 166 in bikini. 2024, 52. So you're talking about eight classes, 52 competitors. There was a class with 3 competitors at a national show. So girls being like, "Hey, I went to nationals, got top 3." It just removes like you said, Lexi, it was so cool to be like, I'm first call outs at a national show. Top 10 national. I used to see that on the top 10 national competitor. Now it's like if you don't win your pro card, you almost don't even mention you win. Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And
Or
then,
or you have to say it was a stacked class.
oh, yeah,
Yes.
that term gets thrown around a lot for sure. Yeah.
Um, I got news for you guys because I have my data here. When we do nationals, it's going to be shocking how low the bikini numbers are for this year. And what's funny is the fit model's been picking up the slack.
Hmm.
Like they're keeping the women's numbers level, but bikinis down and fit models filling in the slack. Okay. So Junior USA's, and then you turn right around a couple weeks later and you've got Junior Nationals.
Yes.
Again, a difficult show to get to. Chattanooga is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hard.
I personally drive an hour and a half from Nashville because it's a direct flight for me.
Then you
Yeah.
got to drive. You fly either Nashville, you fly to Atlanta, then you have to rent a car and you got to drive. Like it's expensive to get there.
Yeah, and it's just so, at least for me, so unappealing to think, okay, I've got to fly somewhere first off, and then I've got to go from there. I've got to drive another hour and a half. Like that's just so unappealing to me. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
It's
But
expensive too. It's expensive.
yeah, but at this show, so we mentioned that with Junior USA's, it's the top four in the overall get their pro card in bikini. Now for Junior Nationals, it's top one in each open height class. So kind of we're going up a little bit in terms of how many they're handing out.
And they did something different at this show. They added an Olympia qualifier for bikini,
Yeah.
which means the girls that turn pro can turn right around and get on stage and compete to go to the Olympia. And that I think that added a little bit to it because, well, initially this show didn't see the drop off, but this year it had a big drop off.
You know,
So I'm going to give you, I like giving you my highlight numbers. So 2019 Junior Nationals had 206 in just bikini. They did not have the show in 2020 because it was in Chicago. They could not get the venue in time. That was the year COVID shut things down. They did not actually have a show in 2020. This year, 82. So you're at 10 girls per class at a national show, which is still just so weird. When you're at nationals, when I was at, because I was at all these shows this year, when I was at junior nationals and you're backstage and you don't see people, you're like, this is weird.
yeah, I remember that. Yes, I remember us having that discussion earlier this year about we were like, I don't know if anybody doing like has anybody heard about anybody doing junior nationals this year? Um, yeah, but I feel like we talked in our podcast before that show or after that show about just kind of concluding that maybe it was just the location of it's just so hard to get to. But I think not for nothing, a lot of the drop off in bikini, I think a lot of those girls that would have otherwise done bikini went to fit model. So it was like we didn't maybe lose a ton of competitors. A lot of them just went to fit model because I feel like a lot of girls that did turn pro in fit model this year have so far have been prior bikini competitors that have been at it for a while, but they're just
Yeah.
genetically a little bit smaller. So they've done fit model and done very well there.
So true story. Junior Nationals, 2024, they had 113 competitors. This year they were down to 82 in bikini, but they had 40 in fit model. So they actually almost had the same amount of total female between bikini and fit model. Yeah. And now I heard something new next year. I don't know how true it is because I haven't dug into this. They're going to start allowing bikini and fit model crossovers at shows.
Interesting.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. So, because you guys, we've all said it. Oh, that girl could have done well in bikini, or that girl could have done well in fit model. So, it'd be interesting. Especially
Do
at
we
smaller shows. I don't think at a national show the looks will be even similar. But all right. So
do we want to talk about the Pittsburgh show in between that as an option?
yeah, for sure. So that was in May. Do I have that on here?
So
Oh, I didn't put that on
actually,
here. That's right.
I think Pittsburgh.
The Pittsburgh Power Pro was in May. So that
Mhm.
would have been,
A
I think
week
that would have been
before,
right.
right at the end of May,
I think that was right after Junior USA's.
Ooh, I thought it was before this year.
right before Junior USA's.
I think it was before this year because
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
you're right. It was before.
Oh,
I do remember going from Pittsburgh yes, you're right. It was before. Okay. So but the difference with the Pittsburgh show, it was the drug-free show.
It's a natural show, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that means that you have to do a polygraph before you compete. And then you do a urinalysis after you compete if you get a pro card.
yeah,
And you
and
have to have competed in a natural NPC show prior to that.
Yes.
yeah,
No
and there's
placement requirement, but you must have competed in a drug-free event prior.
yeah, and I think that's where I've talked with a couple girls just on Instagram, and they're like, "That's so confusing." And that's where I think it does get confusing for some people because it hasn't. Well, I mean, Pittsburgh, the pro qualifying show hasn't been around for that long, but same with Ben Weeder. Like, you have to do a NPC natural show, not just a regional NPC show that's not natural. You actually have to do a one that is classified as being natural as your means of qualifying for either the Pittsburgh Pro Qualifier or Ben Weider.
And that has changed. A lot of these shows now have, like this weekend, I'm going to Atlantic. I have girls doing the NPC show Saturday, the natural show Sunday. A lot of promoters are doing this. In fact, I think because the Ben Weider is coming up, I was at the Ultimate Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. They had more competitors registered for the natural show on Sunday than the NPC show on Saturday.
Yep.
Food
Competitive
for
too.
thought. Food for thought.
Competitive.
Now, obviously, don't get it twisted. There's still way more competitors competing in untested, but that particular show was one of the last shows to do. So you had a lot of girls doing that. And
Okay.
it has a really good history. A bunch of the girls from last year went to Ben Weider and turned pro, like, and a bunch of guys. So like that show, if you do well at that Ultimate Grand Prix natural event, you do well at the Ben Weider show.
And so, just so we're clear on the timeline here, the Pittsburgh Natural would be kind of, will it be the Arm Amateur, the Pittsburgh Natural, but of course that's a natural one. Then we have Junior USA's and Junior Nationals is where we're at in the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah. And at Pittsburgh, they were giving out 2 pro cards,
Mm-hmm.
overall and runner up.
Yep.
That's it.
And there were a fair amount of competitors in those classes too. They were not small.
That was a massive show. Remember, Evan, we were like, wow, this is a big show.
Yeah.
Especially for
Yeah.
a first year show that they did not announce right away. That was kind of like
Lots of people in that show.
Yeah, but that tells you when you only have 2 ways to get a pro card, people show up. So I'll be curious to see the Ben Weider numbers because I've got a decent amount of competitors doing both amateur and pro at that show. So I think our team's going to be very large because you've got some girls doing it. Lexi's got some people doing it. There's a couple other coaches that have people doing it too for the team. Okay, so we've got Arnold, Pittsburgh, Junior USA, Junior Nationals, and then everybody does Universe after that. Universe is it's 4th of July weekend every year, and it's the first show that offers top 2 in each open class.
Yep.
Yes, and the first show that has masters only classes as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now the difference is at Universe, they don't do every 5 years. They do over 40, they do over 35, over 40, over 50. They don't have the 45, 55, which is Masters Nationals. And I know that gets confusing, but so Universe is usually massive because of that. You get all the crossovers. But again, the numbers for Universe have been declining pretty quickly. For bikini, the largest year I have for them is 232 at Universe. Now that's just the open competitors. In 2018, 232. In 2020, 218. And little side note, Alexis won the overall that year. And then this year, 137. So their numbers are holding a little more steady, but that's because if you cross over into the open from the 35 and the 40, you get counted as an open competitor.
Yeah.
So I think that's helping their numbers.
For sure.
And I also noticed Fit Model was very large at that show.
Big. And a lot of talent in Fit Model that show.
Yeah. I think a lot of the girls that won the open classes were the Masters competitors too.
There was a few.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a few in there, which is interesting.
And then, so Universe 4th of July. So you're talking 16 bikini pros. And then, well, they still only gave out the open class winners for Fit Model, which was 4. But then you had the Masters as well. And then right after Universe is USA's, which is in Vegas a couple weeks later. Now, this show was a bit of an anomaly. The numbers here actually went up this year in bikini.
What about you skipped over Masters Nationals because that was at least this year that was.
It is in between. You're right. It is July 18th. You're right. Yeah. Masters Nationals. Now that's just class winners, and it starts at 35 and goes every 5 years. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 60. They go up every 5 years in all the classes.
And if we want to bring master shows to this, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, we will. I mean, those are the first 2, and there's only North Americans, which has both, and then Master USA's. So we'll include them all because there's really not that many more shows.
I feel like Masters Nationals is a really fun show though for those ladies that are the Masters level, because at least what I've always heard from girls that will do it and clients that I've had that do it is it's like the camaraderie backstage with all those ladies like is really something special. So I feel like if you are a Masters level competitor and you want to compete at a national show, that's a really fun one to do. And It's in Pittsburgh, same venue as North Americans, and like it's a really, really cool venue and just part of Pittsburgh in general.
Mhm. Yep. It is a wonderful show, and you don't have to contend with massive open classes. So I think the show runs a little bit quicker. Um, who was at North Americans with me this year? Was either of you there?
I was there.
Lexi was.
Oh my
Lex
Lord,
competed.
Lexi. What did we get out of prejudging at like 6 p.m.?
Oh my gosh, yes, it was crazy. Prejudging for bikini was, I think it,
Didn't even start till like 3 or 4 o'clock.
yeah, and I remember walking in at like 5 and they were still on the last bit of bikini. Yeah, it was a long, long show for those girls in the open bikini classes. They weren't going on until like, yeah, like 5, 4, 5.
Luckily, we're almost two North Americans, but that was shockingly small this year. Okay, so we go to Masters Nationals, open class winners for your age category, pro card, USA's in Vegas, top two in every class for the bikini, class winners for fit model.
Yes.
Yeah, and so um, this was a weird one because this show actually. So I had USA's last year at 124 for bikini, this year 149. So they increased their numbers.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense because it is one of the only ones that's on the West Coast. So I'm
It
sure it
is,
attracts a
and
lot
it's
of
also they moved it back to Vegas.
It's easy to get to.
and it's no longer, I mean, it has been this way for a while. It's no longer a 2-day show. Remember when it used to be a 2-day
Mhm.
show? Like,
Nope.
and I actually, my first show I ever did, it wasn't a national show. It was a 2-day show. And like that just honestly, especially the female, kind of sucks because you're having to pay for your hair and your makeup for 2 days in a row. And like, I don't know. I don't think it's as fun for competitors.
I kind of boycotted it after COVID because of that. They moved
Yeah.
it to Phoenix, then they moved it to like Long Beach, then they moved it to LA. Back in Vegas this year, they made it a 1 day show. They had it at one of the really cool like hotel venues. So it's almost like a touristy show because you go. I think we competed on Friday in the women's divisions, so we had the weekend to like have fun. So the numbers actually grew there for bikini, and fit model was quite large. And yeah, I think the West Coast, if you're talking about all the West Coast competitors, did that show. Um, that's why. Now USA's typically is very large. I think the biggest year I have on record was 2018 at 232 and just in bikini. Um, Last year they were down to 124 in bikini, and it actually went up. So this was one of the only shows that actually is showing, an increase. But again, I think that speaks to the mindset of the competitors. You got two pro cards, you got Las Vegas, and I don't know if y'all have been looking, but Las Vegas is cheap. The flights are cheap, the hotels are cheap, the Airbnbs are cheap if you get it in advance.
I mean, I know I remember this year you told me the hotel was really cheap, but I mean, I still feel like flights aren't anything. I mean, at least from Tampa. I mean, you can
Maybe
find,
Tampa.
I was able to find something decent through Spirit this year, but I still feel like you'd not, I don't know, can't find anything cheap.
Well, the trick is the day you fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
huge.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you do the
Yeah.
Friday Sunday flights, it's a little more expensive. But like,
Yeah, that's true. But I remember you told me this year when you came over to Brett's, you were like, the hotel I stayed at was so cheap. So that was interesting.
yeah, I literally looked up the host hotel and it was like 350 a night, and I'm like, well, let me just see the next. I looked at the property next door and it was like 99 a night, and it was just as nice. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay there. Yeah.
Okay. As long as it's nice. Sometimes when you see those prices, you're like a little skeptical, but if it's nice,
No, I mean these are Vegas. It was I forget the name, but it was one of the big properties right there on the
nice.
strip. So
Sweet.
yeah, so USA's is July,
Hmm.
and then August kind
North
of have a
America.
little bit of a couple week lull, but that ends the end of August is when we hit North Americans,
Yes.
which
It's
was at one point the largest show in the country. 2019, the most competitors in history. JM Mannion always tells me because Daraja won the overall there, and he still tells me you still got the record. Um, so let's talk about North Americans because that's one of those shows that's like they go back down to one pro card per class. So I think a lot of people opt out for that reason. Maybe Pittsburgh just isn't quite the draw of a Vegas, but they were down to 112 in the bikini division open classes this year, which that includes crossovers. That's a low number. 2020, 275 in bikini. So they're almost at a third of that. And when you're at 111 competitors at a national show with 8 classes, there's some classes that don't even have call outs. There's some classes that don't even have 10 competitors.
Yeah.
So it just gets, and I was grateful this year because I was sitting in that chair watching all the people compete all day. Bikini hadn't even started and it was like 4 o'clock. But then they come out with class A and there's like 6 girls, class B, 5 girls. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of feel like it kind of makes sense that like the numbers would be a little bit lower for North Americans when you think about a lot of girls. I feel like they kind of start like maybe at junior nationals, and then if they don't get it there, they go to universe, and then and then it's like
Yeah.
by the time North Americans comes around, a lot of those same girls have probably kind of shut it down for the rest of the year, right? So yeah, but I
Well,
mean,
and I don't think the West Coast people are going to fly to Pittsburgh very frequently.
right, right. It is, I will say, Pittsburgh. I know you and I always say this, Paul. Pittsburgh is, it's like a hidden gem. I mean, I would never go there in the winter, but like it is a really
Absolutely.
pretty city, and that venue where North Americans and Masters Nationals is at is so pretty. It's like right on the water, right by the bridges. It's awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we have North Americans, and then um we have the next thing is the Amateur Olympia.
Yep.
And that is, well, typical, like the past couple years, that's been like first couple weeks in October. However, I don't think they've announced this year when or for 2026 when the Olympia is, but I know that there's been rumors that it's going to be maybe moved back to September. So we'll see.
And it's also a
Well,
very
that's,
interesting show because
I mean, it's been
it shows
confirmed,
on a
Lexi, because
Tuesday.
they announced the cutoff for the next Olympia. So they inadvertently tell you when the Olympia is going to be. It's going to be back in September this year.
Okay.
Because normally when it was September, the cutoff show was Tampa Pro.
Tampa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually what made Tampa Pro a big show.
Yep.
It wasn't until it became the last Olympia qualifier, and you used to get like huge numbers for like, I remember one year
was
bikini
great.
had like 50 competitors.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Open
that
bodybuilding
was
was
when there
always
was
great.
points too. So girls not only were coming for the win, but they just needed like another point, or they needed to protect their points.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So we have the Olympia Amateur, and then
Well, that one's a little different. That one is top 3 in the overall.
Mhm.
So you have 8 class winners. Then they do first runner up, second runner up, overall champion, and get pro cards. And that was for both fit model and bikini. So there was 3 fit model pros, and we'll toot our own horn. We had 2 of those 3 on pro physique. And then the bikini was the top 3 in the overall as well. So let me just check my numbers here for amateur
Again, a fair
Olympia.
amount of international clients or international competitors in that show, and it's weird because you compete on a Tuesday too, so it's
And that one
very
does bring
awkward
out a lot
timing.
of international. That one
It does.
does, because you get a lot of people that are doing it to compete for their pro card, and then they stay for the Olympia.
Yep.
So last year, 2024, they had 93 total in bikini. This year, they were down to 63. So a little bit of a drop off. However, they added fit model and added, 40 competitors to fit model. So there was only a 18-person difference between fit model and bikini at this show.
yeah. Yeah, this show it is always strange that it's on a Tuesday. Like that's just I don't know. I feel like for a lot of people that's really hard for them to, then they're gonna have to take off that whole week for work. But I guess for the people that kind of make a whole trip out of the Olympia weekend, it can work for them.
Yeah, my girl Myra she came from the Philippines. She flew over, did the show, missed her pro card because, Swan won the overall and beat her. But she stayed and enjoyed the whole week and did the touristy thing. And now I know you guys are worried, but don't worry. Poor Myra flew back to the Philippines and then won her pro card soon after. But it's a good, I don't know. I just love going to Vegas. It was a good week for us, staying there, training with Brett. The vibe is good.
It
Yeah.
is fun. I didn't want to leave. Honestly, I remember coming home after that. I was kind of sad, just like a little like, post-trip depression where you're just kind of like, oh, back to reality. But
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
yeah.
So that puts us up to date. So we're up to date. So we just had, I don't want to call it US, but we all just saw like they had this show it's called the Caribbean Grand Prix, which is promoted by Surge, who does the Ultimate Grand Prix, Florida Grand Prix. It's technically an international pro show, so they give out pro cards to the overall winners in the open categories. Um, it's such an easy flight from the United States to the Bahamas, like an hour, not even some if you're in Miami. So that's one option. Um, I typically don't put a lot of competitors in that show, um, but it's an option if you're chasing that pro card.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the numbers yet, but from what I heard, there might have been less than 15 total competitors in bikini.
It was
Really?
really small. Yeah, I know Brooke Caperton was texting me and I can't remember if she gave me specific numbers, but I do know she was like it. I mean, even I think in her classes she was fit model and she had like three girls in her
Yeah.
classes. And I think she mentioned there was another class with like two girls. So like I do know
Mhm.
it was a very small show.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah, well, I
We
mean,
got
Well, we
two
have,
shows left.
yeah,
yeah,
two shows left. We have Masters USA's.
Oh,
Well,
three.
Ben
three
Weeder.
shows.
Yeah, Ben Weeder, Masters USA's, and then actual nationals in Texas, which funny enough used to be in Miami. And I know you kind of missed that, don't you, Paul? I remember you used to love going to
Oh,
for
It's great.
I don't
nationals.
know why. I used to tell people it was just the way the year was set up. But driving down to Miami for nationals, there was nothing after that. That was like November 20th, right? The week before Thanksgiving. This was back before COVID and they didn't have stuff in December. And it was the last, it just felt like the last day of high school. I used to describe it as like, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the finality of that show. I always had a pro card at that show or two. And one year I had three. It was just like, because you know it's the last show. So you're just murdering people. Like, let's go, let's go. And so it was always this like really fun weekend. I used to live down there. So I have a couple good friends. 2 years we rented a boat on Sunday and just went out on the water. You know, it was just a good. And then when they moved it to Texas, I do love the Texas show, but you get nostalgic for like the way things used to be sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's one of the shows I would love to go back to Miami.
Yep. Miami, it was just a great location too. It was like walkable. Airbnbs were
That's actually one of the
reasonable.
places where we hung out.
Yeah.
What year was that
That
you
was
did
my
that?
first, that was my first national show,
Yeah,
2018. Yep.
yeah,
You know,
yep.
fun fact, I've actually never like been to Miami. I've driven there to get on a cruise, but I wouldn't count that. So I've never actually like been to Miami. I've been to Fort Lauderdale, but never Miami.
It was also in like North Brickell at the convention center too. So not like on South Beach or anything like that. It's like an upscale
It was a
kind
pretty
of,
badass venue. It
it's
was in
great.
a giant theater inside the Hyatt. I mean, the parking and driving wasn't the best, but once you got there and got your car parked, you could walk to the gym, walk to the grocery store,
Yep.
walk to the venue. And it was just like this really good energy down there, and everyone was having fun.
Weather's
Man,
amazing during that time of year.
yeah, the weather is beautiful and the scenery is beautiful. And then also, they're giving out two pro cards. So let's go over the Nationals numbers because that's one of my shows. 2017 was the peak, 276 in bikini. 2021, they had 221 in bikini. Last year, they're still up there at 170.
Wow.
So they haven't had the decline that these other shows have.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I will say I've heard many competitors like just kind of talking about this on social media. I feel like there is this big like prestigious kind of
There is.
nature around nationals, right? Like it's not junior nationals, it's nationals, right? So I've heard some competitors say that they want to do that show just because of that like prestigiousness around it. But it is interesting because like it is a very I mean it would require a competitor to be in prep throughout Thanksgiving. It's a very close show to Christmas, but it just yeah, I feel like it attracts a lot of people.
Well, just so we're clarifying for all our competitor friends out there that are saying they're doing nationals,
I was going to say the same thing.
Ben
Yep.
Weeder is not nationals. Ben Weeder is an international pro show that because of COVID got moved to the United States and never left. Okay. Nationals
Let's,
is the only nationals. NPC
yes.
nationals used to be 80s, 90s, up until the 2000s, the only route to a pro card. You had to qualify by winning at a junior national or a junior USA show. Those overall winners didn't even get pro cards. They just got to go to nationals. So used to be a much different journey. Now, obviously, they're not giving out one pro card a year anymore. Um, but that's why Nationals has the prestige that it does, because it used to be, you know, the show. You won Nationals, it was like you were announcing to the world you are ready to be in the pros.
And that terminology does matter to a lot of people in the IFBB, along with
Hmm.
that as well in the NPC, is a lot of people say, I'm going to nationals, I'm going to nationals. You can say, I'm going to a national show, but nationals is nationals. It is different. It is the gold standard of all NPC shows. It is. And everything else kind of falls behind that, not just as far as numbers, but as far as honestly, talent of competitors too. That show brings out the most talent of any show of the year.
Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, they moved it to the state, which currently has the most competitors NPC card wise, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
told to me by someone in the NPC. Like, so they have the most bodybuilders, and then you put the show at a really good venue. It's in Las Colinas, which you're not dealing with the hassles of Dallas. It's out there a little ways, and it's a really nice area. The convention center is amazing. It's right across the street from, so like the whole experience for a competitor at that show is so good. And then the Texas promoters, I mean, not for nothing, they
Some of the
might be
best
the
out there.
best. They might be the
Oh yeah.
best. You know,
They
between
have a
Bernadette and Freddie and those, they do not spare expenses. They make sure that it is a well-run show.
Yeah, they say everything is bigger in Texas, and they definitely live up to that for sure. And I mean,
Mhm.
I think also like we touched on before, the fact that Nationals is now in Texas, that's like very centrally located. So it's a little bit easier for people on the West Coast to get to, on the East Coast to get to.
Mhm.
It's not like it's, really hard for a certain group of people to get to. I mean,
It makes sense why they
like,
have it there.
yeah, and flights to Dallas are so easy too. I mean, there's two airports and you can usually find something pretty easily going in there.
Yep. And that kind of winds up the year for pro cards. You've got, Masters USA's, which is, for those that aren't familiar, that's the one show where they have the division. You have to win your class and the overall for the 35, the 40, the 45, 50 to get your pro card. Now the numbers for that show are very small. Like, let's, for like the 40 and over category, all classes, you might get 10 or 12 girls in some of them, just depending on the year. So, but again, that's another show that's like, you've got those shows in the summer, July, August for the Masters, and then you've got this one in December, November, that's like, it's so far out there. I've got a couple girls doing it, and I got a couple that are really good. So, um, I'm excited for it. But yeah, you got to win the overall. I've had a lot of girls go there and win their class. I've never had a pro card at that show. That's so just for fun fact, I had a girl turn pro at the Amateur Olympia this year. That was my first. I've now had someone turn pro at every single show except Masters USA's. So I'd like to check that box off my bingo card.
Yeah,
Right?
hey, that'd be fun. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that kind of wraps it up. So hopefully this will be, we'll definitely have to save this. I know I'm going to save this episode when it comes out as a good thing to send to people that are just wanting like a
Well,
quick
you know what I've really enjoyed, Lexi, is Sarah, who, if you guys aren't familiar with Coach Sarah from our team, she's a great coach. She's also been helping us with our like documents. And so if you're still listening to the podcast, this is a good time for you to comment below. What if we created a document on how to turn pro? Like just the US shows, the qualifications, how many pro cards per category are given out, and I don't know that because I've been really enjoying these like guides that we've been giving out. They've been
Mhm.
really well
Yeah,
received.
yeah. I like that idea. My only fear is that, well, I don't mean with things that sometimes things change, so that would be my only fear is that we create something and then have to kind of revamp
Well, so all we do is put at the top for 2025 this or
it.
2026
Right.
this, and then there's this thing you can do, like, so you can edit it.
Yes, I'm aware. Yeah, no, I like that idea. That is good.
I mean, things change pretty quickly, but I feel like the national shows, they have been slow to change things because I'm like, you're giving out, I mean, gosh, 8 pro cards at junior nationals when you had 80 competitors.
Yeah,
That's crazy to me.
crazy. That's why I wish, and I don't really know how that they would implement this, but like that's why I wish they more did a percentage like based, like, depending on how many competitors show up, give away like a percentage of those athletes get a pro card rather than,
Well, someone told me that the Caribbean Grand Prix, they only had like 10 in bikini and they gave out a pro card. So like
yeah.
there's got to be
But
minimum standards.
I agree. I agree. But then it's like, what are you going to do if those competitors show up and you're like, okay, well, we're not giving away a pro card because not, not enough people showed
No,
up.
listen, I think if you announce it, you got to stick to it.
Yeah.
But if in the future the numbers are that low, you have to have like a okay, because my girl Tabitha, she won the overall for the over 40 fit model at the Pittsburgh
Oh
show this
yeah.
year,
Yeah.
but they didn't meet the minimum requirements for a pro card. They had to have like 10 or 5 or something, and there was only like 4, and she won the overall, but she didn't get a pro card because they didn't meet the requirements. Whereas the 35, that girl did get her pro card because they had enough in that category.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that they did that. I mean, it sucks, yes, but it also makes sense, and I think most competitors do agree with that because I don't think anybody wants to win a pro card, with 2, 3 other people that they went against.
No.
Most competitors.
Well, to be fair, I held Lauren. I told you guys this. I held her out of the Caribbean show because I felt like she needs to make her presence known at like a national show that gets a little more attention. Um, so I didn't want her doing that show. But you know, this is the job of a coach. It's like to understand the landscape. You know, you know, and a lot of like something we don't talk about except maybe with our competitors, and it's too long of a podcast. We're about to finish up here. The strategy about even going to a national show. What do you do before?
Yeah.
There is a process where you can almost ensure you're going to be in the mix at a national show by doing the right regional show in front of the right judges, getting that feedback, and then going.
Yeah. No, and that's I think where too, like we always talk about this. This is why I think it's important. Like if you do want to turn pro, making sure your coach goes to shows, kind of knows the lay of the land, like, because we all talk about this. We've gone to many shows and not all shows are created equal, right? There's some shows for, that we would put clients in, other shows that maybe we wouldn't. So yeah, there is a level of strategy
Yeah.
for sure.
There is for sure, and something to kind of point out too, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way at all. With that is, you have to be for that to matter. You have to be a competitor that is going to be in the mix no matter what, right? So, you're gonna have to be someone that consistently wins your open class or is always in the mix to win an overall. Then that stuff really matters, right? Like getting in front of the judges that are going to be judging those national shows. That is important. But again, if you're struggling to get in that top 2 placing, a lot of times going in that level of detail, does it help? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But again, it's is it worth kind of bending over backwards to get in front of a certain judge because you're going to be doing that national show? If you got a shot, yes, like a
Well,
really good shot.
it can also be a wake up call if you're 2 weeks out from nationals and you get in front of Tyler and you get 7th.
Yep,
Yeah.
it can hurt a lot too. So.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's our strategy. And if you see us at the Ben Weeder, me and Evan, we're both fairly tall. Say hello.
We constantly hear that. Wow, y'all are way taller than we thought you
We're
would be.
tall for bodybuilding. We're not tall for like
I
normal.
always get the
We're
opposite.
pretty
People
tall, Paul.
That's funny. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
always get
guess
the
so.
opposite. People are like, "Oh, you're so much smaller in person." That's always what I
See,
Yeah,
get.
Evan, if you ever come hang out with my friends, I have a buddy that's 6'9", a buddy that's 6'7", and a
yeah,
buddy that's 6'5". I'm the little one. I'm the runt. So sometimes I feel small.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah. I played ball in Georgia, where I was literally the shortest person in my whole friend group with
Yeah.
it. But I was among giants at that point.
Same, same. That's why I started lifting weights. I'm like,
Right.
F you guys. I'm gonna get big. All right. Any other announcements? I think we're good to go.
That's it.
I think that's it. So yeah, tag us if you're listening. Hopefully this one was helpful, and definitely share this one too if you have, friends, teammates that you think would benefit from it. We would love it if you shared it with them. I've had a lot of good consults recently with people that are like, I discovered you guys from the podcast, and I just really appreciate the information that's put out there. So we appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
Let's go. All right, y'all.
So yeah.
Happy Monday.